Shiur is dedicated to Nishmas Rachalei Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. We're about 2 weeks before Pesach, Erev Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and I wanted to address some of the symbols of the Leil HaSeder, and in particular perhaps something that does not get often discussed, and that is I'll start with charoset, and discuss both an interesting insight into the halacha of charoset, and then Bez Hashem will also take a look at some aspects of lechem oni, of matza. The Mishnah in Maseches Pesachim Daf Kufi Daled Amud Aleph queries and points out that there is an idea that we have Hevi Lefanav on the Seder plate. You have in front of you matza v'chazeres. You have matza, you have maror v'charoses, and you also have charoses on your Seder plate in front of the balabayas. The Gemara then says that even though charoses, the Tanakama writes, even though charoset is not a mitzvah, afal pisha ein mitzvah, you still have it on your Seder plate, afal pisha ein mitzvah. Rav Elazar, Rabbi Isaacson says, mitzvah, it is a mitzvah. So you have machlokes tanoim, whether charoset is a mitzvah or is not a mitzvah. That's the Mishnah. Chachamim say it's a mitzvah, and Rav Elazar, Rabbi Isaacson says, it is not a mitzvah. The Gemara continues on Daf Kuf Tet Zayin and Aleph and elaborates, well, what's going on over here? If the Chacham are correct and it is not a mitzvah, so then Mishum Mai Maisila, what's its purpose then? Why do you have it there if it's not a mitzvah? What's the charoset doing? So the Gemara explains that the reason it's there, Amar of Ami, is Mishum Kappa. It's there because of Kappa. What exactly is kappa? So Rashi explains, Tosas as well, is that the maror, because it's very, very bitter, has a kind of poison, a kind of very sharpness that can have an ill effect on people. And Rashi says that certain vegetables have this kind of sharpness, this very mild poison, and the charoset comes to mitigate the ill effects, which is called kappa, the ill effects of that maror, and it's there basically for medicinal sakana oriented purposes, and that's the role, is the sraf hachazeres kosher. The burning of the maror is difficult. The yeshbo aras, it has a kind of eres, it has a kind of poison, and the charoset mitigates the ill effects of that poison. Tosas has a slightly different explanation. Tosas quotes the Rabbeinu Chananel and says that there are worms, tolas, in the maror, and apparently the charoset kind of causes them to disappear, causes them to die off or fall off, and therefore it solves this problem of tolaim. So whatever the case you go with, the shita of Chacham, who say charoset is not a mitzvah, so what's it there for? It's there for this ancillary reason of kappa, because of the sakana involved. Then the Gemara says, okay, what about Rav Elazar, Rav Tzadok? He says charoset is really a mitzvah. And if it is a mitzvah, the question is what kind of mitzvah is charoset? What exactly is this all about? It's certainly not a mitzvah to oraisa. So what exactly is this mitzvah? The Gemara asks, my mitzvah. What is the nature of this mitzvah? And the Gemara presents two positions as to the nature of the mitzvah of charoset. Position number one is that of Rav Levi. Rav Levi says, what exactly is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is zecher letapuach. It is a commemoration of the tapuach. What exactly are we talking about? What exactly does this mean? So Rashi explains zecher letapuach, that the women of Mitzrayim, the men were not interested in reproducing and having another generation. After all, they were totally exhausted by the slavery. They saw no point in having children, and therefore the women had to take it upon themselves to beautify themselves, to entice their husbands, and there was an apple tree, a tapuach, which is quoted in the Psukim in Shir Hashirim, that they enticed their husbands and they had the babies under this tapuach tree without pain and so forth, and a zecher to the efforts of the women and their mesiras nefesh and the nace that took place. So we have charoset, which has apples in it, zecher letapuach. This is the first opinion of the Gemara. Then the Gemara comes up with the second opinion, that of Rav Yochanan, and Rav Yochanan writes that the reason for the charoset is zecher latit, is because its color and its texture, it reminds us of the mortar that Klal Yisrael had to use in building the bricks and so forth in Mitzrayim, and therefore it's a Zecher Latit. And the Gemara expands and says, Amar Abaye, Hilkach Tzarech Lekahuye, V'tzarech Leksamuche, Lekahuye Zecher Letapuach, V'tzarech Lesamuche Zecher Latit. So Tosas says that therefore it has to have a tart kind of flavor, like apples. That's significant to remind us of the tapuach. And it has to have a certain texture to it, a thickness to it. You have to mash it thickly, lekahuye, so it looks like mortar. And these are lesamuche, so it looks like mortar. And this is basically the Gemara. Again, how do we paskin? Is it a mitzvah?